I'm Kate O'Donnell, fellow with the Odd Salon chapter of San Francisco, and tonight we are going to talk about the most amazing parties that very sadly none of us have ever gotten to attend. I know, but just wait, like hearing about them is enough. Okay, so it is Paris 1927, and across the city there are some disruptions going on. Black swans are disappearing from Paris's iconic park, Bois de Boulogne. Famous singer Misty Nuet is being forced to perform barefoot this evening, not consensually. And the French Navy are trying to prevent people from stealing the pom-poms off of their hats. All because of this amazing woman right here. Meet Elsa Maxwell. So good. Hollywood gossip columnist, radio and TV personality, epic party giver, like the most epic party giver of all time. It's amazing. Hollywood matchmaker, celebrity chaperone, composer, performer, paid celebrity companion, and clearly one of our people. Yeah. I just want this picture like framed above my bed. I don't know. Okay. So the Great Paris Scavenger Hunt of 1927 was one of her most famous epic events. However, in her life, she threw more than 3,000 parties and attended over 10,000. Yeah. At the height of her fame, her column was followed by millions. She had over 800 letters a week arriving at her house, recognized around the world, and was very tight with a slew of Hollywood celebs, including Marilyn, Cole Porter, Sophia Loren, Princess Grace Kelly, and Rita Hayworth, who Maxwell credited for introducing to Rita's husband. So, okay, starting from birth, like, this woman has just turned up to 11 in every way, okay? According to her and Time Magazine and the New York Times, she was born during an opera performance, like in the opera box, just, no big. Also, despite spending a lot of the rest of her life disparaging her looks, she won a beautiful baby contest at 16 months, and like, when I say that everything about this woman was turned up to 11, her nanny was hung for murder. We're not even going to talk about that. That's not even part of the story. It's just a detail. Okay, so from the beginning, one of the things I love so much about her is just like how few fucks she gave. So she was born in Iowa, raised here in the Bay, and in 1897, at age 14, stole a boat, filled it with all her buds, went out in the Bay, almost capsized in the wake of a freighter, and then upon return, her parents were like, hey, if you're going to act like a tomboy, you're going to look like one, and we're chopping off all your hair and going to make you wear pants. And to which she was like, awesome. This is dope. And attended most masquerade parties for the rest of her life in drag, including as Ben Franklin, Herbert Hoover, and her buddy Einstein. And oh, what costume parties there were. All right, I'm going to share just a couple favorites with you. One of them is Come As Your Opposite, which coincidentally is a party I also threw in 2007 when I dressed as a trophy wife. True story. The second, even better, which is kind of the only thing I can imagine rivaling the Paris scavenger hunt in 1927, because it happened the same year. Come as you were, meaning come as you were dressed when you received the invitation to the party, which were sent out at a whole variety of times of night and day. And so people arrived in a whole variety of states of dress or undress, including someone wearing half of a tuxedo. While there's some busing snafus, it apparently went down as one of just the soirees of the 1920s. And yeah, she was responsible for throwing many of these, defining of the era events for the upper crust of society. But while really indisputably a guiding star of high society, she was kind of an unlikely one. She once said this terrible quote, but I have to share with you, which is, quote, "I've been favorably compared to a whale, a pachyderm, a hippopotamus, an untidy feather bed, an igloo during a summer thaw, and a rubber mattress, but I became a celebrity anyhow." Yeah. She was clearly brash, outspoken, and so gay. She very sadly publicly made a number of homophobic comments throughout her career. I think we can all sort of assume that this was her cover for being the fact that her sexual orientation was very, very publicly known. However, that sucks. But it was known. She wasn't subtle. Look at this photo. So, okay, she had a lifelong partner with whom she was with for 50 years, Dorothy Fellows Gordon, or Dickie. In addition, she had a very obvious public crush on the opera singer Maria Callas, which is a whole other talk for a whole other time, including the supposition that it was actually one of Elsa's parties in Venice that ended Maria's career. So let me just summarize the story thusly. It began like this. It continued like this, and it ended up like this. So she provided multiple tales of men who had wronged her as really sort of declaring them an excuse for why, she would never again, right? She once described a man kissing her as, quote, "It is difficult to describe the feeling of revulsion that came over me." She was forward and she was salty. And one of my favorite quotes from her, she is just shit-talking Elvis on a Mike Wallace TV show, saying how he would be the worst party guest ever because, and I quote, "He wouldn't speak, he'd just move his pelvis around, and I'm not interested in pelvises or their movements." It's so good. And it wasn't just him that she hated on. It seems that there's this really weird pattern where she starts shit-talking someone in the press and then they become friends. And that's how she makes her friendships. I don't know. But her parties embraced the saltiness. So another favorite of mine was her hate party in the 1950s, in which each person was asked to come as the, quote, person he or she most intensely disliked. So Elsa comes as King Farouk of Egypt, which, okay, but, not higher on the burn book than Hitler and Mussolini? Really? Okay. And she loved trolling. And I got to share a quick story of one of the, amazing time that she punked Alec Guinness. Okay, he and his fellow cast of the play, The Cocktail Party, basically they get these formal invitations from her saying that she's going to be throwing this rap party towards the end of this play's run. So when they arrive, it's less of sort of a high society vibe than an underground arms deal vibe, because they're taken to this random building and then put in a freight elevator and taken up to the 20th floor, where then there's this room with cameras that are filming a fake commercial. And then they're asked to be there, and then they finally get to go to this buffet, which looks amazing. And as soon as they start coming in down on the food, she yells cut, and all the cameras and lights go off. And I'm just gonna read you the way that he described it many years later, which was, quote, "Not only were we left in dingy semi-darkness, but Maxwell had the temerity to shout again, 'Don't touch what's on the table, your food is in another room.'" And him calling her Maxwell and not Miss Maxwell, which is what would have been appropriate at the time, shows that he harbored a grudge about this for years. She had some questionable things that she did as well. I can't even turn the slide. Okay. 1941, people. 1941. Yes. It is exactly what you think it is. People are asked to come in dressing gowns. There is a tent with like fake debris from which dummies are carried out on stretchers. I know. No, like it's really bad. So, I mean, she was a very smart lady, and I am quite sure that she, very intentionally held parties to like decisively accentuate class divide, right? And allowing the top socialites to enjoy a night of slumming. Then she got into some weird animal stuff. There was an event with a trained seal and also seals. Yeah, and also, unfortunately, no eels. A milking contest, a greased pig contest, which prompted the best headline ever: screaming women chased by pigs at freak ball. Science. Pigs. But for whatever ire she caused her guests, she also had this incredible knack for really anticipating and meeting people's desires. So there's this one lovely anecdote where they're at some party of Charlie Chaplin's, and Einstein, like, they're playing one of his favorite pieces of Mozart music, and she sees that he like really wants to get in the action. So she asks the violinist, "Yo, can this dude borrow your violin and jump in?" And he does, and like everyone's really excited that Einstein's playing Mozart with everyone, much to the crowd's delight, much to his delight. And so it was many ways that this ability to really anticipate and meet people's needs were able to, help her climb the social ladder. That and her ability to invent her own story. So she kind of painted her childhood as like similar to Cinderella's. She grew up destitute, and yeah, she only had a couple years of formal schooling, but her parents were like reasonably well off, kind of upper middle class. And that story about her being born in an opera box, it was reported in Time, and it was reported in the New York Times, and I'm so sad to say that it was complete bullshit. She was born in her grandmother's bed in Iowa. Potato, potato. And so, as her very dear friend Noel Coward said, quote, "To write the true story of Elsa's life would be worth doing, but unfortunately quite impossible for the simple reason that the details of it, the real mysteries and struggles and adventures, are untraceable. The only authority for data would be Elsa herself, but to appeal to her would be worse than useless." And, I think if there's like one phrase to accurately describe her rise to success, it's just fake it till you make it, right? She had the amazing London murder mystery party and another amazing epic scavenger hunt in London. And then the one where we started, the 1927 one in Paris, which the whole thing with the performer's shoes and the black swans and the pom-poms. So details I did not include is that not only was that one of the most famous performers in the world who was then just had her shoes disappear and had to perform barefoot, one of the swans got a little ferocious and sent multiple people to the hospital, and the wife of a British diplomat was detained by the French Navy for said pom-pom pursuits. She basically just like had high society eating out of her hand. And at the end of the day, like, it didn't matter where she came from or what her story was. She had a mission, one which everyone in the upper classes could get behind, which is, quote, "I have done my small part to stamp out boredom in certain quarters of this world where it threatens to become rampant. If I accomplish little else, I shall consider my life justified by that one fact. Down with boredom, it has to go." Yeah. So, despite all of her shoulder rubbing with the stars, she scorned material possessions. She never owned a home, refused to accumulate capital. When she passed away, her longtime partner Dickie was the sole person in her will, though of course had no say in her funeral arrangements because she had no legal standing other than being a friend. But yes, boo. We can take a moment for that. Fuck yes. So Elsa passed away in 1963 at the age of 80, just 1 week after, yes, attending her last April ball in Paris, an annual event that she had started. And so you know, she wasn't perfect, but she brought joy and oddness into this world that we are still enjoying today. How many of you have asked a stranger for their eyebrow hair this evening? How many of you thought you'd be doing that before you came here tonight?
I definitely did.
They're not wrong. Yeah, I love you too. In any case, basically, this woman is amazing in so many ways and so delightfully odd. And so I would like to make a toast with an invocation from Elsa herself. Serve the dinner backwards. Do anything. But for goodness sake, do something weird. Cheers.